Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is my first tutorial video and I'm going to show you how to paint a tree with watercolor. First, draw a basic lines with a pencil on where the trunk and the branches will be. This will just be a guide on how a tree would look like. So don't draw it too dark. And keep in mind that the branches will become thinner as it goes further. And for the leaves, if you want, then you can directly start painting with watercolor. But for those who are confused, you can draw a guide with pencil for the reference. Just draw a group of leaves for each branches. So this is the basic outline for the tree. And now we can move on to the coloring part. But first, let's tape down the drawing. I'm using this transparent tape, but you can use masking tape, which is equally effective. And I'm using my aqua brush. And one important thing, I was checking my phone and saw that I've reached 500 subscribers. I would like to thank every single one of you for supporting my channel, and I was so happy, but I didn't overreact. Slightly maybe. Now back to the drawing. I'm using chrome green color for the leaves, and have a tissue beside you to soak extra water from the brush. To paint the leaves, you can apply random small hand movements like this. It's really effective to paint leaves, and I always use this technique to paint trees. You can use this technique to fill up the guide we drew for the leaves. Now choose a darker green shade to paint the shadow areas. Before painting the shadows, you have to know where the light source is. Like here, the sunlight will be falling on the top right part of this tree, so the shadows will be on these areas. Use the same technique I showed you before to paint the shadows. Paint the dark green on bottom part of the group of leaves, and don't overdo it. Now to paint the trunk and the branches. I'm using burnt sienna, or you can use any brown color, and apply light strokes for the trunk. This is the base layer, so don't worry about the details. Use the same technique to paint the branches. While painting small branches, don't make the strokes too thick. Just apply light pressure and thin lines. If you don't have tiny paintbrush or can't draw thin lines, then you can use color pencils too. But I recommend you to practice drawing small thin lines using watercolor. Draw branches in between the leaves to show that that branch is on the back side. Draw this a few times to show many different branches on the back side. We have to put some shadows on the exposed branches using the darker brown color. And try drawing light shaky lines to give it a rough, uneven looks. Now follow that step to add shadows on every exposed branches. Use the same technique to draw shadows on the trunk. The shaky lines give the effect of uneven bark on the tree. Keep in mind that all the shadows should be on one side. Now choose the same green color that was used to paint the leaves, but this time adding very less water to give it a darker value. Use the same technique that we used to paint the leaves, but this time leave a lots of open gaps, otherwise the lighter green won't be visible. Now use the same technique to fill up the rest of the leaves. Now I'm using yellow color to give the leaves a little highlight that's facing the sun. Apply only a small amount on the tip of the group of leaves. Now it's time for the shadows. For that I'm using darker green color. I'm using the same technique that I used for the yellow highlights, but on the bottom side. Now using a little more darker green for the shadows. If you are confused on where the shadows should be, then draw it where the branches ends, like me. Finally adding some more darker brown for the shadows on the trunk. Use the same dark brown for the final detailing on the trees. And adding some extra small branches to make it look more realistic. Now let's add some sky on the background. For this I'm using blue color and mixing it with lots of water. Get a small tissue paper like this. Apply horizontal strokes evenly from top to the bottom. And don't worry if the water touches the leaves, because it's already dried and applying some light strokes on it won't affect it. But don't apply too much strokes on it, as it may re-wet the green paint and make it bleed together. But light strokes, it's okay. Now take that small tissue paper and use it to soak the blue color while it's still wet to create a cloud-like effect. Now follow the same steps for the other side. Use a very light gray to create the shadows on the clouds, just like we did on the trees. And use this technique on all the clouds. To paint the ground, I'm using the same green color that I used on the leaves. Apply same horizontal strokes like we did on the sky. Take some dark green color and apply small light strokes upward for grass. And take some dark green color to show the shadows of tree on the ground. Use the same horizontal strokes technique. So here it is, the watercolor 3 tutorial. This was my first tutorial and is little different from my other videos. So I was confused if this was a good idea. So tell me if I should post tutorials or just stick to regular drawing process videos. You can suggest me or share your opinions down on the comment section. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and turn on the post notification bell to know when I'm uploading my new video. And also check out my other videos too, you may also like them. Till then, I'll see you next time.